Welcome back, crew. Today we've got a complete OP11 Yamato guide into Blue Purple Luffy. I'm pretty sure all of you are going to be excited for this one because we're going to cover everything you need to know about how to beat this leader with Yamato, and it's very, very possible with Yamato. Your odds are even good. Let's get into it. Alright, so today I'm just going to cover the general strategy of Yamato and how that's going to look as your general strategy into Blue Purple Luffy. We'll cover the core cards within our deck and which are the ones that we're going to need for this matchup. We're going to have a look at the cards that you need to play around their deck as well. So the key cards that they're going to present, which pose an issue to us. We're going to cover the going first. If you are going first, we're going to cover that and your ideal hand that you want to mulligan for in that. And we're also going to go through going second and the ideal hand for that and your general strategy that you're going to need if you're going second. Following that, I'm going to have two games. One is when you're going first, the other is going second, and they're going to show you how you can actually implement these strategies and the ideas so you're able to beat Blue Purple Luffy too. So do stick around for those because they will be great. I'm going to have all of these in the timestamps so you can jump ahead if you like. The core cards aren't going to change from my Bello Betty video, so if you haven't seen that, do check that out. But I will cover it again here if you're just interested in this Blue Purple Luffy matchup. So the general strategy Yamato has, it's got two ways it can win. It can win by attrition, and that is that you keep on attacking until they run out of resources. You basically attack their resources. Yamato is very good at doing this because you can apply Banish to Yamato very easily and take away resources, but also swinging with a leader that poses a threat to 2 life is something that your opponent wants to defend. So they're likely to play cards from their hand to defend it earlier than they would other leaders. The other way you can play with Yamato is by taking a very aggressive plan and just trying to win early by force. And taking the first few life can be quite easy, and then you can use something to work around their defense. And that is a number of cards, and we'll go through that with our core cards. In terms of Luffy though, Luffy is one that you will struggle to win through attrition because as soon as he hits that 8 Don requirement for his leader to activate, he will start getting 2 cards per turn, and then from that point onwards he is only gaining more value per turn than you will be getting. So it is a race. You need to beat that Luffy before they can really start getting value after value. You have to steal the win for this one. You have to win by force, and we'll go through how to do it in this video. Alright, so here are the core cards I'm working with in my current deck. You don't need to use these exact same cards. I'm going to divide these up into what their purpose is. So you'll be able to choose your own cards that you feel might suit your circumstances a little bit better, or cards that you're more familiar with, or possibly just cards that you've got laying around and you'd rather use those instead of maybe more expensive ones or ones that you don't have at hand right now. Let's go through all of the cards that are necessary. Now, we do have a bunch of removal cards within this deck. We have the Ashura Doji, the Zeus, and the Shanks. Now, the Ashura Doji is quite a useful card in this matchup because it's able to remove the Zorojuro if they play that, and that will prevent them from gaining the ramp. It also is one that can hit Nami if they're playing the Nami blocker or any other blocker for that matter. You can just remove that blocker early on and make way for that Banish to come through. Zeus is probably one that you're not going to play in this matchup, and it's probably better off being used as a 2k than anything else. Shanks is not likely to be used, but it can come in handy. But there's a lot of other cards that you're going to want to play instead of this. Your main threat in this deck is the Katakuri, and that is one that Shanks can't deal with. So now we have our banishers here, and we have two of them. We're running the Izzo and the Yonami. We really want to take advantage of that banish with 2 times life being put in the trash. So we want to ensure that we find these cards, and we're doing it by I'm playing 7 in my deck. You can choose your own numbers. I'm running higher with the Izzo. I've got 4 of the Izzo. For this matchup in particular, I find the Izzo is just that little bit better because it gives that defense against your opponent, and your opponent has a hard time dealing with anything that's on the board, even if it is a 2k. So these little blockers do come in handy. Next, we're going to talk about our resters. So in this matchup, we have, well, the resters that I'm playing is the Izzo, the Gum Gum Elephant Gatling, and the Hody Jones. Now, the Izzo and the Gum Gum Gatling aren't likely to be used in this matchup. If you do see them in your hand, you can get rid of them. Though the Izzo is a 2k for defense and this is a 3k for defense, so it's not entirely worthless. But if you find Hody, you are happy. Hody is the card that you want to find to finish this game off, because he is able to rest the Don as well as characters. So on your opponent's 8 Don turn, when they do play the Katakuri, you have the choice. You can rest their Katakuri and a Don. If they leave 2 Don up and a Katakuri, maybe you rest the 2 Don instead, leave the Katakuri there, and swing in with 3 attackers to get through and take the game early. All right, we've got rush cards in this deck as well. You might not be able to establish a board big enough before that turn 8, the turn where they have 8 Don. And that is where rush can come in really handy, because if you're able to take the 2 life through banish effect, there's a chance that they have 1 life left, and then you'll need to hit. So you'll need to hit twice. Even if you've got that Yamato, you still need to hit twice. And this is where the rush character and the Yamato combined can finish the job. Now, in terms of our rush characters, Hody is better because it can rest. However, if they're not posing the threat of a Katakuri or, 2 Don up, if they've exhausted themselves and didn't think that you're going to try and take it this turn, Momo is actually slightly stronger when you're on 8 Don. If you're on 7 Don, they are equal in strength. So feel free to use the Hody if you're on 7 Don. If you're on 8 Don, you're going to get, I think it's 2 more power per turn for this, for playing this rush character over Hody. But if there's any Don present up, you want to go for Hody. All right, now we're going to talk about power enhancers. This is something that this deck really needs, and I think it's the thing that actually makes this matchup strong for Yamato. Primarily, this Toniyasu here, this Toniyasu is God. You want to see this card. It's not only great at the very start of the game, it's great to finish the game as well. So if you haven't seen this Toniyasu before, what it is it costs 2, you play it out, you can activate main and give a Wano character or leader 3000 power for the turn. This is really good because you're using 2 Don, but that 2 Don can be added to a character through your leader effect anyway. So essentially it doesn't cost to play and you gain 3000 power. So if you're trying to distribute Don to finish them off, you now have 13,000 power instead of 10,000 power this turn to do so. The other reason why we really love this card is if you go second, on turn 1 you can play this. On turn 2, if they don't have a blocker down, which usually they won't with this deck, you can activate this main, use a banish card, and then you're dealing 10,000 power to the opponent Luffy, and they usually will not have an answer to this. And if they do have an answer to this, they have discarded their hand and thrown away their chance at winning this game anyway. So really strong card to see at early game. This Momo is also really good because of its, when you're down to 2 life, you'll gain 1000 to your leader, and you can return to cards that are attached to a character back to the rested Don pile, and it will gain an extra 1000 power and become Rush. So really strong power enhancer in general. You get a plus 2000 power for the turn just by playing this one. All right, now I've put trigger bodies in here. This is actually pretty good in this matchup because, as I was saying before, often you'll get to a situation where you can take the 2 life through a banish, but there's 1 life left. And if they've got a Katakuri up, you might need an additional attacker to be able to get through, and it might be the Yamato, a Rush, and another body. And if you get one of these trigger bodies on, the Kukunujo here is a 6000, so it can attack into the leader with no Don commitment. You will need a commit Don here, but up until this point, the highest power that you would have played out is probably a 3000 power, so it is going to be helpful to have one of these on board if you can trigger it. Now, in terms of searches, we're only running the 1 searcher. Having a searcher on board isn't as useful in this scenario because you need to commit a lot of Don for it to be able to attack. That said, they do play Bond Clay, and having a Yamato swing back into Bond Clay is quite useful. Generally speaking though, because you are running low power bodies for the most of the game, the Bond Clay doesn't have a good target to attack back into you. So more often than not, the Bond Clay won't be rested until you're going for your Hailmaker move. And if that fails, the Bond Clay can then attack. And you've probably lost at that point anyway if you fail that, Hail Mary attack. So generally, the Yamato isn't as good in this matchup. All right, let's talk about defense for a second here. Now, I've divided these up between, we've got our 2Ks here. Currently I'm running 14 2Ks in this deck, and this is largely because of the blue-purple Luffy being present. Because he swings by default with a 6K attack, you need 2K counter to be able to defend it. So the more 2Ks you've got, the easier it is for you to defend that with just 1 card as opposed to 2. Let's move on from that. We've got also 2 blockers in our deck. We've got the Izzo, we've got the Momosuke here. The Izzo, as I said, is really good because it also acts as banish. The Momo is even better because it allows us to stabilize so much better being a blocker, and it also heals us by returning any Wano character to the top of our life. The other ones to mention, which has been mentioned before, is this Gum Gum Elephant Gatling. Gives us 3000 power for the turn in defense, and we also have this Electrical Luna. Electrical Luna isn't really going to serve us in this matchup, so if you see that card, feel free to discard that as soon as you can because it isn't going to help with this blue-purple Luffy match. Alright, now let's talk about the cards that you need to play around here. Blue-purple Luffy doesn't really have a lot up until that 8 Don turn. And the 8 Don turn, he's going to play out this Katakuri. This Katakuri is something we don't want to see because it's not something we can rest easy. It's not something that we can remove. The only removal is the Shanks, and the Shanks needs to target a rested character, and the Katakuri always restanding itself will never give that Shanks an opportunity to leave itself open. The way to play around the blue-purple Luffy deck the best is actually to win the game before this happens. Now, you can afford the Katakuri to come out, but you can't afford to have them have a turn after that because that is when the chaos starts to come your way. Let's have a look at the other cards though that you need to play around here. So Giant is an obvious one. If they've got 1 Don up, you need to be aware they're likely to play a Giant. This can sometimes work in your favor though, because if they are on 7 Don and they've got 1 Don up, if they use a Giant, they're then on 7 Don again, and they won't be able to start their turn on a 8 Don turn, which would activate their leader's ability. In fact, if they're on 9 Don and they have 1 up, it's the same deal. If they play this out, they won't be able to activate the leader. So be aware of that. This is something that you can use to your advantage as well. If they're on 9 Don or less and they have 1 up, you're more likely to see Gear Second. So keep that in mind. Gear Second adds 3,000 power to their leader. So if you see 1 Don up, maybe swing 4 above, and that might be the number that you need to get through with a banish attack. Now, I want to also mention here Big Mum. Big Mum is actually not that big of a threat to us as it is to other decks, because if they're only on 1 life and they throw the Big Mum down to add another life, now they're at 2 life. It's no problem to us at all, because we're still going to Yamato and take those 2 life away in 1 sweep. So we don't need any additional bodies to be able to close out the game. So if they throw Big Mum down, don't worry about that one. That is not a threat to us. Now, the other cards I haven't talked about here is Godthread. Godthread isn't the biggest problem to us because we're not playing super big bodies that will really change the game at the point in which they would play it. But it is one that I want you to be aware of, that they will KO something on board and gain a Don. The biggest threat I think there actually is in this deck on the way to seeing this Katakuri is actually Thunder Bakwa. And the reason being is if they've got 2 Don up, they can defend an attack quite easily, like a banish attack, and still ramp. And the thing that we're trying to do the most here, the way we're playing around this Luffy, is actually disturbing their ramp. By doing all these low swings into them, making them discard their 1 case, they have to discard their ramp cards. And if you can force them to discard this Gear 2, that is 1 less ramp card they have as an option. On the flip side, if they actually play this out to ramp, that is 1 less counter they have to defend with. So either way, you just need to be aware of how they're playing it. Are they trying to counter out, or are they trying to ramp? And it tends to be, if they're ramping up to get to that 8 Don turn quicker, you're able to get through with your banish because they've got less defense. Where if they take the time to counter out, you tend to have an extra turn before they get to that 8 Don turn. And so you're able to take advantage of that and still get the banish through. This is the way that you need to play to win this matchup. Alright, so let's have a look here. Going first, you want to prioritize to find the Toniyasu. The biggest game changer here is having that additional power to be able to hit the 6k leader. The second thing we want is a banisher. And the reason why we prioritize Toniyasu over a banisher is because we can't hit the Luffy with the banisher unless we have Toniyasu. They're just not going to let it come through. You're only going to have 1 Don. They'll easily 1k out of a banish, and then you've just wasted it. The only way I would actually swing into a Luffy with such a low number is if I've got multiple banishes in hand and I can afford to swing in and make them discard without committing any extra Don to do so. The other card that is really important in this matchup is the Hody. You want the Hody. Hody is the finisher. It turns off their giant. So this is something that you're going to need to finish this game. Generally, if I'm going first, I would do a turn 1 Yamato searcher if I have it. And I'd be looking for the Toniyasu or a banisher. If I've already got both, I'm looking for an additional banisher, possibly an Ashura Doji as well. That is a useful card, but you're probably better off with 2 banishers than you are an Ashura. On your turn 2, you're going to attach a Don to your Yamato and swing in. This is a 6k into a 6k. They are likely to defend that, and if they don't defend it at this point, you can then just apply pressure from that point on. If you do have the Toniyasu, you play that now, and then the next turn you are swinging in hard with everything you've got to take that last life. From that point on, you're going to have a lot of pressure and you'll be able to close out the game quite easily. So if you're going second, this is also the choice. If you win the dice roll at the start, you want to choose going second. And there's a very good reason for this. Now, your game plan is the same as if you're going first. You still want to find the Toniyasu. You can play that turn 1, which is even better, but there's an even bigger point of why you want to go second. So the 2 most beneficial reasons for going second is you've got an extra Don to play with on curve. So you can still play on, say, turn 2, an Ashura to KO a Zorojuro, and still put a Don onto your Yamato and swing. This is really useful when you're still trying to get around their board. The other reason why this is super beneficial is it plays against their ramp strategy even better. You would prefer to see a Zorojuro than you would a Bon Clay because the Zorojuro takes a turn before it can swing in, and you can use your Ashura Doji to stop that from happening. Now, where you might think it's better to just use your Toniyasu at that point, swing in with a banish, it doesn't really matter because delaying that 1 turn will delay their game 1 turn and it gets you an extra body, and you can guarantee that you've got more Don on your Yamato to make that banish hit on the following turn. All right, let's have a look at a game here where we're going first. All right, Blue Purple Luffy. We want second. We want this card. They're going second though, so we don't get to choose. We've got a good option for first anyway. We keep this. This is still good. We are gonna chase a banish card for sure. Liking what we're seeing here. Nothing to KO here. I am thinking they are going to ramp. But we just have to do it anyway. Maybe not. Maybe they did. Sorry, they have this. So that was still good that we did that. Drop this down and we're good for our next turn. Next turn, they're going to need to play down. I think what they want to do is play Bon Clay, but maybe they'll consider something else actually. They probably don't have a blocker. So playing one of these. Is that the deal? We got another one. We got another one. So 3. Maybe they've got another 2 because they must know we can play 3 onto this. That's 2 over, so they must have 3 and 2. Tempted here to make sure this goes through. I won't do it though because I think we should have enough as is. They need a 3, a 2, and a 1. And they take it. They take it. Excellent. What are they on? They're on 6. So I doubt they're going to double ramp this turn, which means we've got 2 more turns before they activate. I'd imagine next turn we're going to see a Katakuri. This is where this card's going to be important. I think next turn we just play to get rid of some cards in hand. Can't use this card anymore, so it is now just... Okay, God Thread, that's fine. It is now just going to be to counter out, and I think we are going to do this here. I could have let that come through. And another Tonayasu. Man, this card is so good for us. So good for us, particularly in this match. What can I say? I think I'm going to just play 2 Tonayasus. Swing hard, try and either take this life or get rid of some of this counter. I think they'll just do the 3 to get rid of... Yep. And then we just do Tonayasu, Tonayasu, throw 2 rested on here, and we are done for the turn. Could still trigger something off here like the Kinemon here is a possibility, or the Kukunojo, which also triggers from life. As I said, they're on 8. They hard play this. They need that, but we're going to rest this and their Don next turn. I can defend, but I don't want to. I want to trigger something. Don't find the trigger. That's okay. That's okay. Now, this one here, it says for Wano. So, it's not going to boost up my Hody. Keep that one in mind. But I can play Hody, play 2 onto it, and then play another 2 from my leader ability. That's a 12. So I'm going to have basically an 11 and a 12k attack here. I think we should be able to get through. Going to rest these 2. Now, question is, do I attack with this first and do a 10 and maybe a 13? Might be a better option. I think I'm going to do that. I don't think they're going to trigger something to get rid of a Tonayasu. I don't think they've got a 2, a 2, and a 1 either. So they take that. And we will finish off this game nice and quickly. Turn 5. What you got for us? Game. All right, that is Yamato into Blue Purple Luffy when you're going first. Once again, key card, MVP, Tonayasu for this match. All right, this is game 2 going second. All right, what have we done? We've done first, let's do second. We want to see this. This is good. This is our finisher. We're keeping this. We don't have our banish card. We need a banish card. Hopefully we can find one. Having a second one of these is nice as well. Because we're searching, I'm going to take this first life. No, we can't trigger it. We could have triggered it. They're a 3 life leader. That was silly. Silly of me. All right. We're going to try and extract a 2k here. No, we're not. We're going to play this safe. Try and get a 1k. Sorry. They're a 6 life leader. 6,000 power leader. It's been a long day, folks. It's been a long day. We're going to take this, once again, still searching for the banish. We will actually trigger it this time. And we're looking strong. This is what we call a strong position. I feel as though they want to use a... They've done no ramp, so we've got them pretty stuck here. I think what we're going to do is I reckon I can get through. I reckon I can get through with this much. It's just a feeling I've got. Just a feeling. They're going to draw cards from it though. Yeah. And because they're drawing cards... Ooh, Toniyasu. Oh, okay. Wow. That's some power trigger right there. That is some power trigger. What we're going to do then is take their last life. And this shows the power of Toniyasu because the two that I used to play him, I've just generated an extra 3 on this for free. And this is going through too. Now we've got 2 attackers. So they're going to need to answer this. And they have no answer. We win on the spot there. If they had a blocker even, we're using Hody. Next turn, we're dropping Hody and we're coming through. So really quick win there. Yeah, that is the power of Yamato. I didn't even get to use Banish. Not necessary in this circumstance. They were all bricked up, but Banish would have really helped because they just triggered 2 red rocks. Yeah, KOing our board. So pretty crazy game. Really quick, but crazy quick. Hope you enjoyed that one. That is Yamato into Blue Purple Luffy when going second. I hope you enjoyed those games. So in general, I hope you enjoyed those games. So in conclusion, Yamato, I'd say it's a 50-50 into this matchup. If you see your pieces, then you should win. But if you don't see your pieces, then they are more likely to win. This is where it becomes 50-50 and you only need to see 2 of your pieces to have a really good game. You also, remember, if you high roll, you want to go second, you can still win going first though. And the take-home message with this matchup is you're racing to take their life before that Katakuri comes out, which they will play on that 8 Don turn. If they play anything else out on that turn, you're even happier. So just try and get there before that 8 Don turn. I do hope you enjoyed this guide. If there's anything that you think I missed or didn't cover well enough, please let me know in the comments and I will happily let you know my thoughts on your questions down there. But until next time, please do look after yourselves and look after your decks.